Hi, Michael James, and I am here with Richard from Longwave Digital. And we're going to talk a little bit about team management and some of the tips and techniques that you've discovered for team management. So, Richard, do you want to tell us a little bit about Longwave Digital and then tell us about your team management techniques?
Yeah, so basically we are a video content creation house specifically aimed at podcasting, but we also create short form content for social medias. Podcasting is one of those industries that's quite hard to grow a podcast just because of the nature of it. It's long form. Nobody's got that much time to consume a 2-hour podcast if they don't know who you are.
Yeah.
So this is kind of the way we've gone down the social media route as well to help promote the podcasts off the back of that. So yeah.
Awesome. So you manage a team. Mm-hmm. So tell me what little tips have you got for team management?
Yeah, so we are kind of partially remote. So we have some members who are either in other countries or just work from home anyway. We're a small team of 3 core people plus freelancers. So I think it's easy to manage a team when everyone's in the same room because you can kind of just bend over and talk to them at their computer.
Yeah.
But when you are kind of handling people who are not in the room, that's when you kind of need systems in place to make that happen. So for me, the first tip is a communication tool. So there's plenty of these out there.
Yeah.
For us, we use Slack. So Slack is a free tool at a certain point. Then you can go for the pro features.
Yeah.
So they kind of get you once you're really embedded in with getting you to pay.
Don't they all?
Yeah. And the good thing
why Slack then over Teams and all the others?
I think Slack is much more of the startup vibe anyway. So I've used it in startups previously. And I think a lot of the other applications have their own. They're all very similar anyway as it is. Mm-hmm. So I think once you get in, like if you're Android or iPhone, right, you're in that ecosystem. Simple communication in groups, so general chat. Maybe you've got a links chat where you post in links that you like. Also, DMs to individual members of the team. It also has a built-in video chat. That's not the strongest, but you can jump on those little video calls with members of the team. So it's just a really good, quicker than obviously email to get in contact with people.
Cool. And as far as managing the projects and everything, you've got a tool that you use for that too?
Yeah, so we have multiple clients and each client has multiple episodes of a podcast is the main thing that we're doing. So generally speaking, we're on a weekly recurring of an episode. So we need to track where we are with that episode. So whether that episode it's had a first draft done before the client may select sections they want out for clips. So we need to know if the audio has been cleaned, if the podcast draft has been edited, if it's been finalized, maybe if the social media clips have been taken and edited. So we just need to track that across multiple clients and across multiple employees as well. So who's working on what, when's the deadline coming up. So to see that all in one place like Notion, where you can actually filter by client, filter by status, and it's almost like a Google Docs, but a table of your documents that's filterable. So it's just a nice and easy way to have information as well about each episode. You know, you might have notes on something the client wants you to remove from the episode. It has its own file. Each episode has its own file. Okay. Then you have a table of all the episodes that you've got.
Yep, perfect. Sounds very organised.
Yeah, well, it can be. Yeah, it used to be, yeah.
Okay.
No, we're more so on top of it now than we ever have been. And it's just getting everyone to buy into using it.
Right.
Without wanting people to ask about certain projects, you point them towards a tool rather than them having to come to you to ask what's next.
Are you talking about your team members here, or are you talking about clients? Would they use it as well? And you have to sort of train them how to use it?
We do have clients using their own Notion. So similar in the way of Slack, we have clients using their own Slack. So you can have tabbed accounts. So we've got multiple accounts for Slack and multiple accounts for Notion as well.
Yeah.
for smaller clients, you can pull them into your ecosystem,
Yeah.
but you've often got bigger clients who already have their ecosystem. You have to kind of work with them a little bit.
So we're touching on something really interesting here, and it's something that I've had experience with in the past. It's like we have these tools, which are actually fantastic tools, whether they be Slack or Notion or Teams or anything else, or Jira, Trello, but they only work as well as people buy into them and actually use them, and that can be one of the harder parts of it. There's a lot of power in these tools. They need to be intuitive to use, and you also need to make sure that the people that are using them actually do bother to use them. Otherwise, you end up in this disorganized area where you're trying to be organized with it, but if people aren't on board with it, then you can end up in a situation where some are organized and some aren't. So tips for that would be just to training, I suppose, or demonstrating the use and the power for it.
I think it's much easier in a bigger organization as it is, because you have to buy into it. That's part of the deal. I think it's much more difficult for smaller companies because there is a way out. There is a way out of asking somebody when the team's so small. So we are pushing it harder than ever now, especially trying to reduce the reliance on me as the person who has the more generalized central knowledge to understand what's going on. So to free me up to not have to make time to answer those questions, we're now pushing it harder than ever to give the people in the organisation more self-reliance to understand the information is there.
And this is where to find it.
Yeah.
Just to push back a little bit on the bigger organisations, because I have experience in working in bigger organisations. Yeah. So you're right, that it's kind of, you have a tool and that's forced upon you. Yeah. But what I've found is sometimes that tool can be a legacy tool, or whoever's made the decision, they've made it across the whole spectrum of the organisation, and it's not really effective for different niches, or it might work for one team but not the other, and it's a big contract that they've paid for. And also, I'd say that you get the same problems. Some people pick it up and really use it, and other people don't, even in a big organisation. So I think that problem actually still exists.
It's universal, then.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Okay, so that's a really good tip. And the final one was, and this is another one that I think is a really good one and I've had experience with, is video calls and stuff. So do you want to talk about?
Yeah, I guess it's an anti-tip, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I think the world we live in now with the remote working, you have to have Zoom calls. So we use Zoom. And I think the risk with Zoom is for everyone to be on the call for as long as possible, and there's more stuff brought up. And I think having a procedure where we try to get together infrequently, or sorry, not necessarily infrequently, but not all the time, for a certain purpose. So where are we with certain projects? What do you need for that to be delivered this week? And that's everyone who needs to be on that call. Now, there's no point having individual calls where someone doesn't need to be on the call. So for us, it's where are we this week? Do we know what we have to get finished this week? And the second call is, okay, how did we do? Where did we not reach what we should have reached? And what are we going to do to make sure that happens next time?
Okay.
And there doesn't need to be really any more calls. I still jump on lots of Zoom calls with the team to help fix problems and stuff like that, but that's not an everybody call, and that should be really quick.
Okay, so but what's brilliant, what I love about that, and you've just picked up on something really interesting from my point of view from Scrum as well. So the first one is make sure that you limit the call to just who needs to be there, and try and limit the amount of time that's needed as well. I've been in meetings many a time where we've set an hour for the meeting, tons of people turn up who don't need to be there at all, and then the meeting will take an hour because that's the time that we've set. But in retrospect, did it actually need to be an hour? And you just mentioned that you do a weekly call at the end, is it once a week, where you talk about lessons learned effectively? That's what it sounded like to me.
Yeah, and how we managed to complete the tasks that we set forward. And another tip, actually, so whether this is a frugal me, is we don't pay for Zoom.
Right.
So that means we're limited to 40 minutes.
40 minutes. That's actually quite a good feature of Zoom, isn't
It is.
it? Yeah.
The occasional one we've gone over that slightly,
Yeah.
then we fall back to Slack and just use Slack just to kind of just have a final kind of, just final little bit, this. Then that should be 5 minutes anyway to do that final little roundup, because you know you've run out of time then.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
That actually, that's an interesting feature of Slack, isn't it? The way it wants you to pay for the upgrade, but it limits you to 40 minutes to be efficient in your
And also they
meetings.
changed it so you can't just jump back on Slack anymore. You have to wait 10 minutes to jump back on. Because you used to just go, we'll just jump back on the same link. So now you can't do that.
That's another tip. Could try and keep your hourly meetings down to 40 minutes. Yeah. But just to go back to the lessons learned. So in Scrum, at the end of your sprint, you will have a sprint retrospective, which is exactly that, lessons learned. How many projects, if you haven't been involved in Agile and Scrum, have you decided, you've done a Prince 2 project or something, and at the end of it, you said, okay, we need to have the lessons learned meeting. And at the end of the project, you go ahead and do it. It's at the end of a long, time of work. And then people just aren't interested at the end of the project, and it doesn't, from my experience, it didn't work as well as when we had it regularly every week to look at the process of work and seeing how you improve.
Because for us, I think it's like we have an idea of how long, especially a new project should take. So we get a new client in. We've done it enough to understand, okay, they want 4 social media shorts, they want a podcast with a really nice intro, and that intro also wants to become a vertical piece of content. This should take this much amount of time. Now, there could be challenges with that where it takes a bit longer because of it. Now, you've planned out the week, or you've set so each one of our employees now, project managers, a certain podcast, so they have control over it. Now, so we know XYZ, employee A has to do the draft version on a Wednesday. It should take them X amount of hours. Now, it might take them more than that. So that's why going back to it that week and go, this is taking me longer because of this. Okay, so we need to readdress how long we've put in for this task.
And there's another example of what we do in Scrum. So similar to the podcast that I did with Greg, you're using a lot of these principles that are used in Scrum because they work. And one of them is work estimation and looking back over what you estimated previously and looking at how long things took so that you can improve your work estimation in the future. And this is so crucial for any work because you're setting expectations. When can I get things delivered for? You're letting people know when you're expected to get things delivered. And if you can't estimate work accurately, then you end up in a whole load of problems because you might end up in a situation where you're just not able to deliver because you've overestimated how much you can get done in that amount of time. And the lessons learned weekly at the end is a great time to look back at the work that you've done and try and improve your processes, which is what we call the sprint retro in Scrum. Have you ever used or considered using any tools for that? There are some out there which you can use for free as well for small teams where it's online and it's anonymous and you have basically maybe 3 columns. There's different templates that you can use, but one might be what we're doing well, what we're not doing well, what do we want to stop doing, or what do we want to try. And then people can put cards in and it's all anonymous, so they're free to say something to the boss. They might not ordinarily feel comfortable saying out loud on a Zoom call, but they can put something in and it's not, it's anonymous, so that they're free to do that. And then the team will then vote on which ones they want to talk about, which ones are the most pertinent. And then you discuss it basically, and then you take some actions from that and apply it. So there's actually tools for retrospectives as well that you might want to check out.
Okay, yeah. Look at that.
Cool. Thanks, Richard. Those are some really good tips. I'll put a link to the Longwave Digital website in the description below this video. And thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Hit subscribe if you want to see more videos like this from me, Michael James, and check me out on Udemy.